Hey everyone, it's Warlord back for my day 18 entry into Warbosstae's July painting challenge. I haven't done any much on painting since my last video. What I did get around to doing is testing out Tester's dull coat, and I gotta say it did a really good job. I know it looks kind of reflective because of the lighting and the camera, but trust me, this used to have a gloss coat on it, and this is not glossy at all anymore. I mean, a couple spots are just because I just gave it a quick couple of coats because a storm was rolling in and I wanted to get a try in before the weather got too crazy. Just with one coat, some spots definitely, got really dulled down. The metallics actually didn't get dulled too much. I just gave them kind of uh, shoddy coatings just really quick because I just wanted to see what they did to the colors. I didn't really care about how it actually looked. I just did that in bronze to test out what it looked like on bronze and what it would do on metallics. It does say on the can not to use over the luster metals, so I'm assuming if I did a couple more coats, it would eventually bring those metals down to more of a gray. But with two coats, it did enough to kill the gloss in most parts. On the back, it does look like it could have used another coat, but that's okay. He's just a test model for now. Um, so yeah, so I actually have 3 questions I need to catch up on because I keep forgetting to do them. So the first one, alternate universe. What is my favorite alternate universe? Probably for any of you who are familiar with video games, the Valkyria Chronicles. It does an alternative universe set in Europe where I believe it would have been roughly the early 1900s, going close. Well, the universe kind of diverges around the early 1900s, and then when you take place, or the part you play through, I believe would be the equivalent between somewhere between uh, the early 1900s and 1920, sometime around there. Anyways, basically they just discovered a new energy source called Ragnite, and not only can Ragnite be used as energy sources, which appear to be much cleaner than fossil fuels, which as kind of a chemist and kind of a slightly bit of an environmentalist myself, that's kind of cool that they came across an alternative energy source. Um, Granted, it does have magical properties and it's, nothing realistic, but hey, this is an alternative universe. And I just like how the twist on how the development of European countries came and the different, federations and whatnot that arose, which is really something common in, Japanese style anime and video games and whatnot, that they like to really play along with like these alternate universes that involve different types of federations that rose from Western Asia and Europe and whatnot. The next question, if I could relocate, where would I go? I really haven't traveled much or enough to been to enough places where I could actually pick somewhere where I could say for sure I could live here and really enjoy myself. Um, I've always been interested in Washington, but really any northern state in general. I'm really not a fan of really warm weather, and so living more northern, summers are a little bit shorter, and falls cool off pretty quickly. Springs usually stay pretty cool, and really it appeals more to me being in living in an environment where the weather is typically cooler. The weather lately around here has been in the 80s and 90s, and it's finally cooling off. But even once it gets into the 70s, I feel like just completely miserable, whether it's humid or not. Right, and then the next question that guy at your gaming club question for which I believe is day 18. Uh, at the local gaming club that I play at when I'm at college, there's a guy who plays Necrons for 40k, and where he originated from out of was fantasy, and what his army he now plays is orcs and goblins. and he actually got interested in the Blood in the Badlands campaign and ended up buying the book off of eBay for more than it would have cost if he would have gotten it back when it first came out. But he was trying to gain more interest in fantasy at the club, and I mean, he started off with fantasy. He moved into 40k not so much because he liked it, and in fact I don't think he still doesn't even like 40k, but he plays it quite a bit just because that's what a lot of other people play. But he was really hoping Blood of the Badlands could push more incentive towards fantasy, which it really did. It was a really enjoyable campaign. He devoted quite a bit of his time trying to keep the campaign going. A lot of times we went to his house and used that as a um, place to get our games in because our local gaming club is kind of small and has limited hours. And if you do the full Blood of the Badlands campaign and you try to get it in within a semester at school, you really got to push the pace. And just really him going out doing that, I mean, it really did bring a lot of the fantasy players that already existed into it. But not only that, but it got a lot of well, relative to my local gaming club, it got a lot of people interested in fantasy in general. In fact, before the end of the spring semester, before I came home, uh, we had told the other guys at the gaming club about the Blood of the Badlands campaign, how much fun we had playing it, and it got a lot of them really interested. And by the time I left, we had converted 3 or 4 strictly 40k players to they were collecting fantasy armies. And actually, unfortunately, I couldn't stay up at the college for the summer, and they were supposed to run another Blood of the Badlands campaign this summer, which I didn't get to participate in. Kind of stinks, but maybe we'll do one again in the fall semester if they're not tired of it. So yeah, that was really cool. He really helped push the fantasy incentive. Really kept me interested in because my main interest is in 40k, and I'm always finding ways to spend money on 40k instead of fantasy. So I probably would have had almost a non-existent fantasy army if it wasn't for that. Plus, I really helped him with a lot of the bookkeeping and rules and whatnot, so he could focus more on teaching some of the newer players. And plus, he had some Skaven from Blood in the Badland or from Island of Blood set. So days when we couldn't get enough people to really keep the campaign going, he would play kind of like a second army or put one together for someone else to play. And really, for all the help that I gave with the project at the end of the campaign, he actually ended up buying me a box of Dark Elf Spearmen slash Crossbowmen, which really helped boost my army and made it a much more balanced army that I could actually play without proxying too much. And so it was just really cool that after the whole campaign, even though he probably devoted more resources into it, that he ended up thanking me and kind of buying me another box of models. So that was really cool. It's really helped me with my fantasy army. You can see some Dark Elf Spearmen back there waiting to get finished. So yeah, um, leave any comments or suggestions, and hopefully I'll be back for my day 19 entry, and hopefully you'll be there too.